On the 22nd of June, 2024, the town of Rocamadour awoke to discover that it had been robbed. The legendary sword Durandal, which had hung above their town for generations, was gone. The police were called and an investigation began. Whoever the thief was would have had to have professional rock climbing gear or a tall ladder, as the sword hung 30 feet above the ground, lodged in a crack in the cliff face. Suspects ranged from pranksters to members of the far right, and the town is left devastated, with the mayor describing the theft to the New York Times being like losing an arm. The legend behind the sword dates back to the 11th century epic poem, the Song of Roland. The poem tells a fictionalized account of the Battle of Rochevaux. In the poem, Roland is the nephew of Charlemagne, one of his paladins and the wielder of Durandal. In the text, the sword is made with St. Peter's tooth, St. Basil's blood, St. Denis's hair, and a piece of the Virgin Mary's garment. These relics make the sword indestructible and able to cut through solid stone. Returning to Francia from Spain, where they had been campaigning against the Muslim Basques, Roland is placed in charge of the rear guard as the army begins to cross the Pyrenees. Unbeknown to them, the traitor Ganelon has told the enemy of their route, and the rear guard walks right into an ambush. Although they fight valiantly, the Franks are quickly overwhelmed. Roland's men beg him to blow his horn and alert the rest of the army. Roland initially refuses, but as the battle continues to turn against them, he concedes and blows the horn so hard that his temples start to bleed, summoning his revenge in the form of the Frankish army. Knowing that his time is short, Roland attempts to destroy Durandal, striking boulders lest it fall into the enemy's hands. But the sword cuts straight through the stone and emerges unblemished. In his final moments beneath a pine tree, Roland places the sword and horn beneath him to hide it from the enemy before dying a martyr's death. The townspeople of Rocamadour have their own story of Roland's demise. After failing to destroy the sword, Roland is granted strength by God and throws Durandal with all his might. The sword flies over the Pyrenees mountains and back into Francia, where it lodges itself in the cliff above the town, where it has rested ever since. The truth behind the actual sword that was stolen is not quite as mythical. Gentlemen, I know it's a little rough in France at the moment, with that famine, massive spending by the aristocrats, and the social inequality that will reach its peak in revolution at the end of this very decade. But never fear, I've come up with the solution. I have put a sword in the cliff, and with this, we might get more tourists. According to the New York Times, it was a copy of a copy placed in the cliff face in the 1780s by an official looking to boost tourism to the area. The town won't have to go without its most iconic attraction for very long, with several blacksmiths offering to replace the sword, so the town's legend may continue on.